and challenges of getting around, steal the desire to shoot, this presentation is for you. Darcy was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2008. She's been in a wheelchair when photographing since 2022. Let her take you on her journey of adaptation and changing perspectives through her images. To help keep active and engaged, Darcy picked up a camera in 2011 to document trips with her husband Roy. In 2015, she knew photography was now a part of her life, and she went out and bought a big girl camera. As her physical ability started to become an issue, her camera skills were increasing. She started using a cane, then a walker, and now from a wheelchair. Darcy then made the choice to pursue the goal we have for photographic excellence, and she learned to make adaptations to continue her photographic journey. Darcy will be sharing some ideas and perspectives to help you continue on your own journey if physical limitations interfere. Through the images she shares, you will see that she does not see being limited to wheelchair as a limitation as much as it is an opportunity. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Darcy Quimby.
Hi, guys. Don't be surprised. I can stand and walk short distances. Compliments of my MS. I have to take photographs from my chair. Even though I shoot from a chair, I can still hear you and see you. But just remember, this is my viewpoint. When I was 39, most people with a midlife crisis, they'll marry a younger man, get a sports car. I joined the Army in 2007. I made it through basic, became an operating room technician. I was then stationed at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in DC. This is the place that if you're going to have anything wrong with your brain, you want to be there. Well, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I was lucky. It was almost an instant diagnosis. Well, I was at Walter Reed. And so I served for about a year, and then I was discharged and sent home on a medical discharge. That was me back in 2010 when we first did our escapes. And then this is me. This was this summer. Kind of a little bit of a progression. Multiple sclerosis. It's like taking that plug that's kind of frayed, plugging it into a wall socket, and you kind of get like really slowed down things. That's what happens in my brain. And the picture in the lower right are a normal nerve and my nerves. And I've developed balance problems, vision problems, numbness and spasms, some cognitive issues. So if I ask who you are, just say, oh, I'm this person, and I'll be okay. And the hardest thing to deal with is the heat intolerance. I do live in Palm Desert. It kind of doesn't work out, but it kind of does. This is why my husband loves me, and we escape either to Alaska. The Oregon coast was this year, and that's going to be our forever home. When I picked up a camera, I was getting ready to leave for the service and worked in Walmart photography department. I had no interest in cameras or pictures. It just was, I'll be honest, it was higher paying. So, you know, but the people I worked with, they sent me off with a camera. And when I started taking pictures, I was a tacky tourist or a closet artist. I don't know which is yet. But even back then, I had an eye for uniqueness. When Roy and I started traveling in the summers, I still had the Kodak point and shoot. In 2011, I got the bug and wanted to do more. From the Kodak, I went to a Nikon Coolpix L840. This had no viewfinder and some other issues, so I moved on. In 2016, I got my big girl camera. It was a Canon Rebel T5 DSLR. At this point, my decline had not started yet, and this was just in time to take me on my first bear viewing trip to Kodiak Island. And then I had to start pacing myself in 2018, which also was my 50th birthday. Roy, my husband, loved me dearly, and I got to go on a 10-day trip with Lisa Langell to Alaska. It was amazing. I was up front and I told her, hey, I have MS, but I want to shoot wildlife. So what lens would you suggest? She suggested the 150 to 600, thus my mega lens. We were standing on the road shooting down into this nest, and the baby was less than a day old. Very amazing. In 2020, I decided to enhance and learn some post-production ideas, and this is where I realized that my Rebel T5 just was not going to cut it for me. So I talked to Roy and I landed on the camera, the Canon 80D. And I told Roy, this camera I would never grow out of. Okay, so I lied. But growing into the new camera, I wanted to take reflections. This is Alaska on the ferry. And then this was in a vineyard. I was at this point in my wheelchair taking pictures. So the perspective was from basically waist high for you guys. Then I got this camera I possibly won't grow out of. This was my mirrorless R7. It's a crop sensor. I love it. I love it because what you see is what you get. And then in 2024, I was looking at larger lenses due to where I needed to get to shooting pictures, because a lot of stuff is offshore and there's things that, let's be honest, I can't walk to and I can't reach with my normal lenses. So this is Roy's responsibility for this camera. This is a Nikon Coolpix 1000 Super Zoom. This is zoomed out at their max zoom. Those are Brandt Camerats nesting. And then this picture is the same camera, same rock, and zoomed at 300. So from these, you can see they're two different perspectives. So what is perspective? It's a particular attitude toward or way of regarding something, a point of view. I've always seen the good and positive in everything. I also have believed everything happens for a reason. Having to use the chair to take photos that I used to be able to walk to, or being stuck in the parking lot while others are off hiking, stretched my ability to be positive. My perspective isn't rainbows and unicorns all the time. I've thrown in some dragons here and there. The challenges of shooting from the chair provide opportunities gained, and sometimes frustrations of having to change the way I do something. My view, the spatial relationship between subjects in the frame, it also suggests that the way you compose your image helps your viewer sees the world from a new perspective, yours. And this is from Adobe. This was when I was still walking, and this is at Custard State Park. and there's a 17-mile drive where you can go and see the tunnels of Mount Rushmore. So me, in my adventuresomeness, I decided to take my camera, plop it on the tripod right in the middle of the tunnel. And I caught this family just staring at Mount Rushmore. Everybody's taken pictures of Mount Rushmore, but not everybody has taken pictures of people looking at Mount Rushmore. This is my quirky sorry. This is my quirky perspective, sorry.
If you've never been there, you have to understand those tunnels in Mount Rushmore are all one-way tunnels. One-way traffic, no way to stop the upcoming car. It's just in the middle of the road.
They drove slow. Now, changing perspective. Eye level. This is at the Palm Springs Air Museum at basically this level of a model aircraft carrier with the plane taking off. Great thing to do. Even not in a chair, you can change your perspective. Get low. Speaking of low, changing perspective, ground level. I never, when I was walking, paid attention to what was down below. Now I have to because I don't want to run them over. Change perspective. Get a bird's eye view. Prime example, Kathy's picture of the hill. When you can look and see like you're on a mountain, it's great, and it does boost your confidence, at least for me, in the chair. Get mobile. This was on a boat, and it was a very interesting trip. Get a front row seat. Having the wheelchair can actually get me in some really good positions. We asked, hey, I'll take advantage of it.
I would too.
We asked, where can we be out of the way to shoot this rodeo? And they said, hey, right up front. And I was able to actually shoot between two of the green fence openings. This one, changing perspective. This is great. This was on a tripod. I'm sitting up, but I can't quite get the camera view I want. I have a MyOps trigger. I put that on the camera. I extended the tripod. I used my phone and I snapped the picture. Like I like to tell people, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Keyword adapt. To make or become suitable, especially to change so as to fit a new or specific use or situation. Merriam-Webster. In order to take pictures, my answers to normal preparation questions have to be more detailed. I also have to ask questions that need to be answered before the others. The most important one, what cost is it to me both physically and mentally? I'm sure we all think about, okay, what do I need to take? Where am I going? What am I going to encounter? But you really don't have to think, what's it going to cost physically and mentally? And finding the challenges I'm facing for the day helps me figure out what tools I need to get the job done. I have physical challenges that need to be addressed. My mobility, my shakiness, the fact that heavy equipment is just that, heavy equipment. And anything over 90 degrees, I melt. So when I was shooting, and if you feel like, hey, I just need a little bit extra help, I would suggest getting a walker, because you can take pictures like that This Badlands was on a sunrise tour that I took with PSA at the festival in Rapid City. And the neat thing is they were able to hold my walker on the bus till I needed it. And it's a great place to store your stuff. And now the wheelchair, this was at Surfer Beach in Brookings, Oregon. And that's a really cool picture of a surfer. And in Oregon and even a lot of other places, they've gotten more handicap accessible where you can either take a bike path or take an actual boardwalk designed for scooters and wheelchairs to get up close and personal. I also get lazy sometimes just because I've either done a full day of shooting or, you know, it's like Roy's driven for like hours. And I decide to shoot from my car. This was again at Custard State Park. And if you look very closely, you can see both me and the car in the bison's eye. And then this one was on a road, Forest Service Road, and it was on a bridge close to the guardrail. And we drove back and forth like 3 times till I yelled at Roy to stop so I could take the perfect picture.
Oh my God.
Now that addresses my mobility, and the shakiness is addressed by a tripod, a remote trigger, and believe it or not, a pool noodle.
Oh,
And the remote trigger is designed for lightning, but I shoot fireworks, I shoot pictures where I can't reach the camera to take the picture. And I always use it on a tripod. And my tripod is a Photo Pro Eagle series where you don't have to, you know, level the actual tripod using the legs. It has a cup where you level it that way. So I'm not struggling with the legs or everything. But the pool noodle, what you do with that is you put a slit through it. I have one back in the back. You put a slit through it, you put it over the door frame, and you put your camera on there so you have it leveled and you're not shaking. And it also, if somebody doesn't want to turn off the car, not mentioning who, you know, because it's hot out too, it cuts down on the vibration. Heavy equipment, like I said, I love getting close to things by not getting close to them. And my solution was this Nikon P1000 Super Zoom. On a tripod, I zoomed in on this little crater with the camera just to see how far it could go. So, yes. Now, ways I escape the heat, the umbrella on my wheelchair, this thing on the right's a cooling vest, or I do night shooting. And I got lucky with this night shot, as if you look well, you can't see quite on there. I took a 8-second exposure, and it was during the Perseus meteors, and I caught about 10 meteors in one shot. I was quite shocked and impressed. Okay. My mental challenges, those were my physical challenges. And I think a few of us still, you know, also have some of these. Well, am I really going to, you know, fight these, or am I just going to give up? Sometimes I do give up and say, you know, it's just too much worth, you know, not worth the effort. But photography is meant to be shared. So it's, you know, it's not worth the effort. I've done shots like this before. It's just another shot. I have to pack everything up. But then I get a shot like this, and like I said, it's meant to be shared. Well, I want to go on a road trip. I want to do things and participate, but do I have enough spoons in my drawer? I say that with, do I have enough energy? Am I going to, am I going to actually be happy because I expelled all that energy? And one key word my husband says is, you don't know if you don't go. So one morning we got up early and we decided to travel up the coast. It was salmon hunting. You know what I mean, salmon fishing. So a bunch of boats were on the Rogue River. Then I actually caught a seagull flying down off a rock. I got this really cool landscape. And then I saw, I have to read it. It's a redneck fallow rope. And I never would have saw those had I given in and said, I just can't do it. And then I want to go with a group. In my head, I'm like, I don't want to be a bother. Mind you, this is what I'm battling in my mind. Someone or Roy will have to take me on this outing that, they have to make sure I can make the trail or whatever obstacle normal people can get over. I need somebody to take my chair. I don't want to be a bother. And, just numerous things I go over and over again. Well, there's always someone there to help you. We have a photography group. Just ask. And then the other thing is, when you go, you find willing people who want to help you. And on a recent outing, I'm glad I had people, because the picture in the middle lower one, you see I'm in my chair. You also see what I'm in.
Mm.
It takes about 4 people to get a chair unstuck. I know from personal experience. And then here's a big one. You're getting older, you're in a mobility device, you're on a walker. You really want to do tours with other groups. And you're thinking, I can't do a photography tour. Well, first word of advice, be upfront. Always tell your guide, this is what's going on. Yeah, I won't be able to go with you to climb Half Dome. I don't think I want to anyways. But, then, they'll be more accommodating. The first tour, like I mentioned earlier, was to Kodiak Island to Bearview. And I told the guide, I go, I have multiple sclerosis. I might need help walking. I haven't walked a half mile in. This was in 2016. Well, I made it in. I got the iconic, I'm a big bear. And then I'm sitting there and I'm going, oh crap. I walked a half mile in. I'm gonna have to walk a half mile out.
Yeah.
The tour guide goes, you did such an awesome job walking in. You want us to get you an ATV out? I'm like, if you don't mind. I was not going to ask. Don't make my mistake. Ask, because then you lose some of the enjoyment. In 2018, on my 50th birthday trip, I went with Lisa Langell. Now we're friends, so she knows what I'm going through, but I told her also up front, I might not be able to do everything. She was very cool with that. Well, I got some really good pictures. And the one on the bottom, I'm so glad I have a zoom lens.
Mm.
This is at 150 millimeters. And I'm going, that bear's getting kind of close.
Yeah.
We have a guide, right? He'll protect us. And then just then I hear, hey bear, and I look up and from here to the end of the table is the bear. And I'm like going, hey underwear, do I have another pair? Yeah, so that was like my closest call to a bear. Well, sometimes you have to choose your battles. And as I said earlier, I can walk a little bit. Well, I saw, come on, okay. I saw this arch. Now I was taking pictures from an overlook and I'm like going, in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm in my wheelchair. I wonder if I can get down to the beach. This is wishful thinking because the path is like not wheelchair accessible. So I'm like, okay. And then I thought, well, once I get to the beach, I'm not going to be able to get down. So we did a drive-by shooting, and this is from the road. And as you can see there, we can't see quite there, but there are starfish. Trust me. I'd never taken a picture of a starfish, and starfish live in tide pools. So I wanted to find a tide pool. And I'm one of those people that when I get something in my mind, I have to do it. So how am I going to do a tide pool? Well, up in Oregon, they have these track chairs, and they're probably on the coast and other things, where it is a track. It's like a tank. But it's only rented from this beach, and they only do it at certain times. Although you can make arrangements to take it off, but it's like, it was just not worth it, we found. So what do I decide to do? Well, I have a friend, and Roy and I and her came up with a plan. We found a beach that wasn't like super far, the tide was, it didn't have to go out way far to get a tide pool. So I rested up for a week. I didn't do anything. And then me and her decided that we would go to the beach. And we did. She helped me with my cane and my camera. And we go down and we get to the beach. And I have never, ever seen, it was a surreal experience to actually see a tide pool and realize that these creatures only come out and only see the sun for not that many hours a day. This was a crab that was under a rock. That's an oyster catcher up close. And this was just a little like sprig of grass with these two little like fake trees or whatever you want to call them. And the water droplets were just frozen on there. It was a sense of accomplishment. And I'd never seen a sea anemone before. And so I'm looking at this thing, and my friend's going, we need to start working back because it's going to take you a while to get back there. Tide's not for another hour and a half, 2 hours. She looked at me and she goes, I did the one thing you're not supposed to. I turned my back to the ocean. She goes, it's coming in. I went, oh, yeah, I guess high tide is when you're up that way. So we made our way back, but I just had to share that sometimes when you pick your battles, even when you think you can't, you can. Now, you're asking, okay, that's all great. I love where you go and stuff, but how do I do this? Well, first thing I say is do your research. And with your research, you have to remember that ADA does not always mean ADA. We were in Homer, Alaska, and we were at the Islands and Oceans Visitor Center in Homer. And they had a museum with a bunch of sea life facts and high tides and all the interesting things. And then there was a path through an estuary. And I asked to go, how is it? And she goes, it's a little steep up front, but if you go 2 blocks over, you can start the path that way and then work your way up till it gets too steep. And then you can also come down and go to the beach. Well, this is a picture I took from the top part of the path. And I'm all ready, all excited, as you saw me in my wheelchair, getting ready to go to the other part of the path. And I don't know if you can see it from there, but there's about a 2-inch lip, and I can't get over it. So we decided, well, maybe we'll drive down to the beach and I can go backwards. Well, due to erosion, there was a 6-inch drop. I did not get to go, further down the path. But what I did do is I went up and I did mention it to the museum workers, and they said, thank you. They had like Corps of Engineer, junior ranger things that they would try to fix that path this summer. So that was nice. And I have a few suggestions on where to gather information. The National Parks website, they actually have a section that has accessible areas. State park websites, visitor centers where you're going, call the Chamber of Commerce, check out word of mouth once you get to where you're going. And you've got a great resource here. Ask club members who've gone, who either are physically challenged or aren't, but maybe after tonight they'll notice these things. Or PSA. PSA has great resources. You can do a travel, the word escapes me, but it's like a travel guide, and you can ask the travel guide, hey, are you familiar with any of any accessibility issues? So there are ways to do your research. And just off the top of my head, in Northern California, the Jedidiah Smith Redwood State Park, they've actually done a Redwoods Grove and made the path handicap accessible. So I, or somebody with a walker, can experience the redwoods. A few things to prepare for your trip, or just a day photo trip, or even taking pictures in your backyard. My first suggestion is get in shape. And if you're having some balance issues or even some coordination issues, there are gyms that they call them neuro recovery training or senior fitness. You go hire a personal trainer, say, hey, I'm doing this. Can you please help me? Okay, say you've had a joint replacement or you sprained your ankle or sprained your knee or whatever. Check with your doctor, your physical therapist to say, hey, do you think I can do this 10-day hike in the Amazon? My doctor would say, are you crazy? And of course, share your plans, because you never know when something might go awry. Okay, after the trip, you get back, and what you want to do You want to edit your images, schedule and recover with downtime. And this is one of the hardest things I have to do. And then share your images. I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts. Life has no limitations except the ones you make yourself. And life doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful. I use this quote because Annette Funicello was a musketeer, but she also was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And when I got diagnosed, she was already in a wheelchair and, let's say, not as spry as she was. So my first thought was, oh my God, she is a mess. I'm gonna die. Well, yeah, we're all gonna die sometime. And I want to give a big thanks to a few people. Roy Skelton, he's the wind beneath my wings, and he's my navigator. Chris Anderson, he's a club member with my local club. And we were out shooting when I got my R7, and I'm shooting from the chair, and he goes, you really should put together something. So he got the flame started. Jim Fiedler, people have who knew him, he did pass away. He got me involved in my local camera club, and he saw something in me that at the time I didn't. And then Lisa Langell, she's been a friend and a mentor. And if you have any questions, if you know someone who is struggling, if you have any suggestions on, hey, have you tried this? This is my contact information. And I also put it on the handouts that,
Andrew had. Yeah.
thank you, Andrew had printed up for me. And that is it. I do have, we have a little bit of time left. I brought my tripod if you want to see it. It's a little pricey, but it is worth it. It does everything but take the picture. And that's back there with Roy. So any questions?
Well done. You guys do photo-
Well,
you guys do photo sharing at your club?
Um,
Are you able to see, like, if you go on a group outing, can you see what other people have shot?
no, we don't. We just have competitions and
The reason I ask is the clubs that I've been with that do the photo sharing, they comment about how we can all go as a group and we can stand in the same spot. We're gonna get different perspectives.
Yeah.
I'm curious how much different yours is. I'll bet you see a completely different world than somebody who's 2-3 feet higher.
I actually do, and that's a good point. There was one, the Sandy Wheaton trip, the the Salt and Sea one.
yeah,
The picture with the
Construction. Yeah.
the fish.
Yeah.
I actually took that picture and I did not see the
birds.
no, the birds were cool. Sandy actually pointed the birds out to me, but there's actually a mountain.
Yeah.
There's a mountain that somebody actually focused on the mountain, but I didn't see it because that was pretty much above my vision.
Hmm.
And what I was concentrating on was the fish. The fish and then the birds swooping back and forth.
Mhm. I didn't even see the birds.
I didn't either. I thought that too.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
job.
Shot the fish.
Yeah, I never saw the birds. Any other questions? Okay.
No question, but a comment. I just, you inspire me, like so many people in here, that you're just, not letting it slow you down. You're still enjoying life to the fullest that you can. Thank you.
No, thank you guys. Thanks for listening and thank you.
Okay, well then I guess we'll call it an evening. We have until 8 o'clock to be out, so if you have questions you want to ask Darcy, please come on up. And I'm sure she will sit around and answer them. Yes.